We here at Traxion have been thrown a little bit of a curveball by Next Level Racing. Their latest in a long line of sim racing cockpits is certainly something unique. It's called the Next Level Racing Go-Kart Plus, and I personally have never quite experienced anything like it. So in this video, I will talk you through the whole shazam, the positives, the negatives, and exactly where I think this cockpit fits into the sim racing market. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't quite get it at first, but the more I've analysed things and thought it all through, I've begun to understand exactly what this product is for, and it makes a whole lot more sense. Now just before we jump in, a big thanks as always to Next Level Racing for sending us yet another sim racing product. And we didn't pay for this, but we also weren't paid in any way. They have zero influence on our review, and you can check out our full policy in the description below. Okay, first of all, what is it? This is of course a sim racing cockpit, and it includes the seat. It's made out of powder coated steel, so no aluminium profile 80/20 rig. You lose out on a little bit of rigidity, which we will come on to, but what you gain is a lot of creativity options. Now, as you've probably already worked out, this particular cockpit is designed to replicate the ergonomics and seating position of a kart. And that means, according to Next Level Racing, this is suitable for children and adults. And to be honest, I can see this argument being very much true. We've actually tested it with someone who's 6'3", and we've also tested it with, well, peers. And both of them seem to fit fairly comfortably with a few adjustments here and there. Now they claim a height range of 110 centimeters to 200 centimeters, or 3'7" to 6'7", which is a massive range. And for perspective, if you're wondering how tall 3'7" is, it's about the average height of a 5 or 6 year old, give or take. I think this has to be the main thing that makes this particular product so unique. It's genuinely suitable for kids because they can't race a car yet. So let's talk about how it looks then. And I have to say, everyone here at Traxion HQ agrees that this is a very, very cool looking cockpit. You even get plastic bumpers for the front and rear, which in all honesty just make the whole thing a bit bigger and to make it more difficult to fit through doorways. They also protect people's ankles if you decide to push someone around like you're a child, and that's definitely not something we tried here. Now you may or may not have noticed that our kart has a few small scuffs on it, and that was from trying to maneuver it through the office and take it upstairs. So if you have this in your living room and you're moving it around, do expect there to be a few marks. But yes, overall, visually, this thing is fantastic. I love the styling, the curvature, I like the bumpers. I also love the fact that you can personalize it by adding your own number and your own name with the stickers the Next Level Racing provides. I also have to say the stitching on the provided seat cover is a really nice touch as well. It just gives it a classy finish. Another thing that stands out about this cockpit relative to most others is just its size. It's very, very small and compact, and that makes it very useful for tucking away underneath a table or just out of the way. In terms of the actual dimensions, it's around about 170 centimeters long with the bumpers on and 75 centimeters wide, whereas if you take the bumpers off, it's 140 centimeters long and only 50 centimeters wide. Let's cover the building process then. It all comes in one box. It's all very neatly packaged, well protected with bubble wrap and polystyrene. Nothing at all was marked or scuffed, and the dimensions for the box are available on the Next Level Racing website. And this positive theme continues throughout because the whole process was very, very straightforward. I could follow the instructions very easily. I don't have much experience building rigs, I'll be honest, and I managed to build it in a reasonably short amount of time, and I'm sure you could do it even quicker if you are experienced in building these sorts of things. It gave you all the tools you require, all the bits and pieces, and nothing was too technical or too challenging. It was basically just screwing in things. The instruction manual was very clear as well, so it was literally a case of just ticking the boxes, going through the process, tightening the nuts and bolts. Just make sure that things are nice and tight, especially the castor wheels as well. You really do need to use the wrench to get in there and tighten them, because I definitely left some of them too loose and the wheels fell off. One particularly nice touch is that Next Level Racing have now added a page which shows you the mounting positions for a whole host of different wheelbases, from your most popular brands to some more niche ones, and every product within the range. So that's a nice little addition. It shows that Next Level Racing are still looking at all the details, trying to improve their products. Now, before we get driving, the one gripe I had with the packaging was the rip your hands to shred plastic that the nuts and bolts and tools are all provided in. Now, you know the stuff, it's absolutely horrible. I didn't open it in a very sensible way, I'll be honest. And I must say as well, it's very clearly marked, so you know exactly which tool is which, and you know exactly which screws, what sizes, what you should be using. So that was all really good, but your fingers are going to pay the price. If you have all of them by the time you're finished building this, congratulations, I'm lucky to be alive at this stage, I feel. So then, on to the bit you will all be wondering about. How is this cockpit to use? First of all, I'm going to talk about comfort. Now, at the end of the day, it's a kart seat. Yes, there is kind of cloth and leather cover over the top here, but it's still shaped like a kart seat. It really does feel like a kart seat. First thing I thought when I jumped in it, especially when you actually fire up the sim, using KartCraft in this particular video, by the way, it does actually feel like you're sitting in a kart, which makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't say it's super comfortable. I mean, a kart isn't super comfortable. I mean, it's designed to be lightweight, practical, safe. Obviously, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm just over 6 foot. And I'm never super comfortable in a kart. This is no exception. I mean, it's a bit comfier, obviously. Less movement. I do actually quite like the cloth and the padding they've got on there, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can really do with that. Now, one thing I am super impressed with specifically is the adjustability, because you kind of think, well, compared to a car, there's a lot less you can really do with a kart. But obviously, we don't need to worry about weight distribution or center of gravity and all of that stuff. They have made it very, very adjustable so that you can fit, obviously, young people and tall people as well. So the seat rotates, the seat moves backwards and forwards very, very easily. I can demonstrate now, sliding forward. And there we go. Aside from the seat, you also have, of course, the central wheelbase support, and that adjusts in 2 ways as well. You can go higher or lower, so you can bring this wheelbase up or down, and you can adjust the angle too for your steering wheel. Now, one thing I would say about this is I have it obviously quite high because I am reasonably tall, so that I can fit my legs in and everything, and the higher you go, the less support there is for the inner tube. So what can actually happen, being a single stock down the middle rather than something supported on either side, you get a little bit more wobble left to right, maybe a little bit more back to front as well. And what I did find when I was first doing runs with this at a high setting, I did actually find things begin to loosen a little bit. I had to go around with an Allen key a couple of times just to make sure everything was still nice and tight. Now, of course, this is going to be something that very much depends on your circumstances. Now, how big is the person that's using this particular cockpit? How strong is the equipment? If you do have someone younger using this rig, if you yourself are younger, still got a way to grow, you're going to be putting less force through it anyway. And all of that is going to, I think, make this last longer, need less ongoing maintenance to keep it nice and tight. Obviously, we can't say for sure about long-term stuff because this is very much, a product that's just been released and we've just started trying, but that's my thoughts on it anyway. The pedal adjustability is probably the best of the bunch. You can slide it so far forwards or backwards. There's also 4 different angle settings you can use, so the combination of that, the pole in the middle for your wheelbase, and also the seat adjustability means that you can run a go-kart position or a GT style position, and obviously that is what makes it cater for such different heights. And one final observation pedal wise as well, obviously by switching from the original high-end load cell pedals to these lighter 2-pedal setups, that makes a big difference as well, not only because of the lack of a load cell, but also the positioning of the pedals, because in a go-kart, often you just have 2 pedals, brake on the left, don't get that wrong, and the accelerator on the right. And with this 2-pedal setup, I can easily put 1 foot on each pedal, no problem at all. There's no discomfort, I'm not crashing into this. However, of course, if you're a regular sim racer and you're sticking your heavy 3-pedal setup on there, you're going to struggle. I do want to briefly touch on immersion, because I have to say, as soon as we actually fired up KartCraft and started driving, this seating position, the way it looks, the way it feels, genuinely gives you that immersive karting experience. And I've done a lot of sim racing in the past, and it's quite difficult for me to still feel fully immersed because I'm quite numb to it all. This honestly impressed me because it's so different to anything we've ever tried before. What I would say is obviously we're using this particular cockpit without any of the motion or a butt kicker or anything, and Next Level Racing have actually incorporated that into the design. You have a butt kicker mount that comes with it as standard, and you can actually buy an adaptation kit and then buy a motion platform and make this a proper motion rig as shown in one of their instruction or demonstration videos. So this thing can become even more immersive. Obviously you don't get that stiff suspension movement that you get in a real kart, but you can make it better and better. I'm not sure how that would affect the longevity of it, the rigidity of it all, but I mean, if they claim it works, chances are pretty high. Now, as you can see, we're obviously using this rig on the floor in what is essentially an example of a living room space with a big TV, and visually it's absolutely fine, very, very clear. You can also fit this go-kart underneath a monitor stand from Next Level Racing or anyone else, and you can have the monitor probably wherever you actually want it, so that's no problem at all. It's very, very easy to slide in underneath a monitor stand or a TV, and in that sense it gives you a lot of flexibility as to where this rig can actually be placed. And there's quite a few holes as well that are kind of unaccounted for in the rig. You've got holes running down the sides of the tubes, and I think that just opens up the possibilities in future for mounting options, whether that's mounting shifters or mounting a dedicated monitor stand to the rig maybe, I don't know, whatever is coming in the future, whatever you can think of that will fit these holes, it just opens up your options a little bit more. And that's something I'm always happy about, customizability. So hopefully that's given you an idea of what it's like to use, but let's talk about costs. Now the Go-Kart Plus was initially going to be $699 US, but that's come down now as the product's been launched to $599 and it's also 599 British pounds. In terms of where that puts it, it's actually fairly expensive. I think that's one of the negatives with this particular cockpit. It's not an accessible entry-level cockpit for someone on a tight budget. You're actually looking at quite a bit more money than the likes of the Logitech G Edition Playseat Trophy. I can't imagine though that there's a whole other area of the market at a lower price point for young kids. I do think there's going to be a lot of families out there that aren't quite willing to spend this much money on something like this and would compromise a little bit more on some of the areas in order to get something cheaper. So maybe there's another future product in there for next level racing. I have to say though, this product is all about the USP. I don't know many cockpits whatsoever, if any, that cater this well to children that want to play racing games. And when I was a lot younger, I had a steering wheel and pedals. I mounted it on the desk. I didn't really care about the force feedback and all these things. I just wanted something to play my racing games on. And if I had this, if I turned up on Christmas morning or on my birthday and saw this sitting in the living room, I would have been a very, very happy child. And that is what I think this is all about. I really do think this is designed for children. And yes, you can put adults in it, but an adult's not going to buy it for themselves. I do think they'd buy something that's more suitable, something with a bit less flex, something that's a bit sturdier, something a bit more comfortable. But for a child, this is a great, great option. They're not going to be putting huge weight and force through this cockpit. They're not going to be needing the highest Newton meter direct drive wheelbase to enjoy their sim racing. And at the end of the day, that is a massive USP. There are so many children who want to get on a steering wheel playing racing games and also that love karting. They've tapped into a massive untouched market, and I really do think they're going to sell a lot of these rigs. My only concern is that it's a little bit too expensive for the majority of families to justify as a birthday present, for example. So if they can also produce one that's a lot cheaper, then they're home and dry. So those are my thoughts on the next level racing Go-Kart Plus, but I want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with what I think? Do you think I'm talking absolute nonsense? What do you think of the cockpit itself? Do let us know in the comments below, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more hardware reviews like this in the future. That's going to be it from me today, so until next time, thanks for watching, keep it pinned, and have a great day.